What's going on in the crypto market right now? Is this the end of the bull market, or are we on to something much bigger? Should we expect some more downside or upside in July, August, September? Let's take a look at this and see kind of where things are going. Welcome to Crypto Simulation Theory. I am Legossian Snick, and just a reminder, nothing in this video is to be considered financial advice. Join my Telegram channel and subscribe to this channel for more. This is the logarithmic regression analysis of total crypto market cap. So this includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all altcoins and stablecoins. And this is fit to 525 days of data with up to 3 standard deviations and increments of 0.5 from this orange median line. So each one of these blue lines represents half a standard deviation from the mean up or down. And you can see that crypto market cap is going to spend most of its time being attracted to the mean. We did get about half a standard deviation above the mean, well actually a little more than that, about 3/4 of a standard deviation above the mean on what I'm just kind of looking at here as a recovery leg from the last bear market bottom. Honestly, it doesn't really look like anything more than that. This does not look like a bull market. At the time, it certainly felt like one. I mean, technically it was one, but I don't really feel like this was the bull market. I think we're in a consolidation phase right now, and there is a chance that we head back to the median line. And I know that's not what people necessarily want to hear, but it could happen. We could get close to it. We could bounce off of it. Or maybe we just straddle the 0.5. I mean, I don't know what's most likely to happen here. I think further downside is probably in the cards, though. So we could see quite a big, pause from this move up until we get another major move up that could take us to some brand new all-time highs. So total crypto market cap right now is coming in at about $2.2 trillion. Note that the all-time high of total crypto market cap sits around $3 trillion. So I think we're going to exceed that for sure this cycle and probably start to head somewhere in the realm of 5 to 10 trillion before all is said and done. This is the price momentum oscillator. Now this is for total crypto market cap. I've never shown this before on the weekly time frame, but I think it is important to consider that we did get to some pretty elevated levels in our recovery run from the bear market. Well, the bear market lows were in December of 22, so there should be like a slight downside in here, which there is right here. This is price momentum, and we can see that we peaked out in March, and we've come down substantially, actually to levels not seen since September or September, August of last year. The very lowest we ever got was July of 2022, which matches up pretty closely to September of 2014. So we really saw a big reset on price momentum back then. We've been drawing some red for quite some time on the weekly, so it seems like the odds are in favor of, while there could still be some more red in the charts, of some kind of move to the upside coming relatively soon. I like to look at this on a 2-week time frame because I feel like the data is a little bit more useful on the 2 weeks, so let's go ahead and do that. But I wanted to show you the weekly time frame. 2-week price momentum on the total market cap. Let me turn off the logarithmic lines. So it's shown a pretty well-defined head and shoulders pattern. So here's the head, shoulder, shoulder, neckline. I feel like this probably has further downside in the tank. The question is, will it look something like this here, or will it look something more like what's happened in the past with total market cap? Now this is, obviously doesn't include data from before 2014. Bitcoin's does, but I'm looking at total market cap. So you can see that once we've gotten up to these like really high levels, there's always been a pretty substantial drawdown that's happened along the ways, even if there were bounces. This time's a little bit unusual because we haven't really printed much in the way of an all-time high. It doesn't look very impressive at all. So it is kind of like, it does kind of make you scratch your head as to like what's going to come next. Are we going to see a few more months of downside, really making this cool off quite substantial and then a huge break to the upside? I think we should go ahead and look at what Bitcoin looks like so we can get a little bit more history. So the 2-week price momentum oscillator for Bitcoin shows that every time we've reached these high levels above 80, we've had a pretty significant drawdown. You can see there's just a tiny bit of red here. It would be historically unprecedented for us not to draw more red. So my base case does continue to be that we will see further downside for Bitcoin, but it is possible we see a little bit of a bounce first before we see that downside. We have, just like with total crypto market cap, a very well-defined head and shoulders pattern. And last time we were this high was in 2011, and then again in 2013. We did come down and make a little W-shaped bottom. So something like that could happen. It's not out of the question. We could put in a higher low. It could happen. and then maybe put in a lower high on another run up to maybe new all-time high prices for Bitcoin. Because just because the price momentum reaches a higher high or a major high does not mean that price for Bitcoin can't go higher. So it absolutely can, and it is very likely to do so, because even on the way down, which we're kind of entering into that realm right here, any bounces by price momentum above the signal line, which is the green and red line, will result in higher prices for Bitcoin. So this is something to keep in mind. I do think that we are in a pretty long consolidation period before we head back into a major bull period where we have sustained upside momentum. But yeah, this is kind of unprecedented. Like I said, it's similar in a lot of ways to 2019. If you wanted to compare it to something to this fractal here, it does share some similarities structurally, but that's about as far as that goes. So this is the 2-week Gunnar exponential moving average, or Gunnar EMA band for Bitcoin. The plus signs indicate bullish or bearish crosses. So when Bitcoin is above the green and red band, that's considered bullish. When Bitcoin is beneath the green and red band and the green crosses the red, that crossover is considered a bearish cross. When the green crosses the red in a positive direction, that's a bullish cross. So our last bullish cross occurred on May 22nd, 2023. This is for the 2-week Bitcoin price. Before that, we had a bearish cross finally occur on April 25th. Now, we have had times, like for instance in May of 2021, where we got a pretty substantial drop that affected the Gunnar EMA, but we didn't print a bearish cross. So I think we could be in for something like that, where we may see the 2 weeks start to go a little bit more red, and we could even go below the red Gunnar EMA line and even tap this red zone that I've had here for a while, which is the 45 to 50K range, which I think is a likely target to hit sometime in the next month or two, potentially. We could hit that and still not have a bearish cross on the Gunnar EMA, so just keep that in mind. It takes a lot to get this to go bearish. Like, we have to see quite a bit of action for the green to cross over to the red. So I do think that the green is likely to start to move in towards the red on the 2-week as we get further into this correction, which I don't think is over yet, and then come out of that in very, very good shape and head into another leg of what I would anticipate to be at least like a year-long bull run. I'm not saying there won't be any pauses along the way, but that's kind of what I'm thinking based on all the data that I've seen. This is a 2-week of the Snabble RSI for Bitcoin. You can see kind of like a head and shoulders that formed here, and we have gone down to below 50. Last time we went to these levels was in August of 2023. We bounced from this level, but what I'm seeing is kind of a break of structure. So this was kind of like a bull structure from June of 2022 all the way to March of 2024. I'm kind of thinking we're in for a reset of some kind, not necessarily, doesn't have to be like super major, but it could be something like this. We could have a reset all the way to August. I'm not saying we can't bounce before then, or maybe we just come down to here and then we kind of head back up again. So that, because the thing is, like, and I'll show you this in a minute, rate cuts are being priced in for September. So if that happens, it will initially be bearish for the markets, and then afterwards, who knows, maybe we could see things really start to ride up high in here as we head into the end of 2024 and beginning of 2025, which I'm kind of anticipating will be quite bullish based on what the chart's doing. So I think the Snabble RSI, or Relative Strength Index, is in the process of resetting right now. I think it could go further down. That doesn't mean there won't be bounces along the way, but for a really like a sustained move upward, I'm thinking more that would be likely towards the latter half of the year, maybe after rate cuts. So you can see that the market is pricing in that rates are going to remain steady in July, the end of July, FOMC meeting. Only about a 10% chance that we get rate cuts, which is significant. That is a 1 in 10 chance, but odds are that we're not getting rate cuts at the end of July, unless of course the stock market were to sell off or something like that were to happen. The market is much more optimistic about rate cuts happening in September, and this is what I've got my eye on. We have a 58% probability of rate cuts, only a 36% probability that we don't get rate cuts. And then it kind of staircases down from there. And this influx of liquidity that would come into the market if these rate cuts materialize would, in my mind, correspond to a massive, massive bull run for not only stocks, but for crypto as well. So that's also why it's a little bit hard for me to be optimistic about Bitcoin's price or total crypto cap's price until then, right? And I mean, I'm not saying Bitcoin can't go back up and try to test the highs or test previous, lower highs, but I just don't see it doing anything that remarkable for quite a little while, potentially throughout the entire summer. And maybe we have to wait until the last 3 months of the year to get a truly major bull run going. I know nobody wants to hear that, and I don't think this is just going to be like 3 straight months of down, but I think that we could see some consolidation happening in here and a flag forming, even after a presumptive drop to the 50 to 45 to 50K level. If that were to happen, I think we could see a little bit of choppiness in the waters before the rate cuts happen. This is the 2-week chart for Bitcoin dominance, which is basically the total percentage of the crypto market cap that Bitcoin is taking up. Last bullish cross on this happened, and again, this is on the 2-week, one of my favorite time frames. This happened in February of 2023, so that was the official bullish cross, and things have been bullish ever since then, and they still are. I know that Bitcoin dominance is sort of falling apart. I do recognize and honor that. But if you look at the Gunnar EMA band, this green Gunnar EMA band has been intact. We've barely even gone below it. We only went a little below it in January, briefly over here in March of 2023. You can see if we go back to previous times, we had a nice green Gunnar EMA band, a bullish cross October 2018, almost got a bearish cross in 2019, but it just didn't happen, and then more bullishness, and we didn't get our first bearish cross until July of 2020. So the time from bullish to bearish cross was about a year and a half. Okay, and then looking here, we had our final bearish cross in February of 2021. The time to bullish cross, January 2023, nearly 2 years. So here we are, January 2020. Oh, sorry, what is that? That is February 2023. So a year and a half from February 2023 puts us kind of around August of this year. Okay, so the earliest, based on maybe past history, we could expect to see a bearish cross would be August of 2024. If we go for 2 years, like we've done in the past, maybe quarter 4 of 2024 to early quarter 1 of 2025 is where we might see that bearish cross on Bitcoin dominance. So really, I think by the end of the summer we could see Bitcoin dominance start to take a turn. It may take longer than that though, so just be prepared. Like, don't assume anything has to happen. This is of course just one indicator. We should look at other ones as well. But I can tell you that on a 2-week time perspective, Bitcoin dominance just kind of hobbling along here. It doesn't look very strong. It doesn't. This shape that it's making looks like logarithmic growth, and that just means that it kind of got off to a fast start, just getting slower and slower and slower. I do think that we can hit the 57 to 58% price range. Dominance range. I think that can happen before we, dominance gets sent down, and maybe we get that bearish cross on the Gunnar EMA, maybe sometime in quarter 4. So late quarter 3, early quarter 4 is sort of my base case for when I think that Bitcoin dominance could really start to break down. But that would, historically, dominance is only going to break down if, first of all, Bitcoin price is tanked already and then put in some kind of new all-time high. It doesn't have to be a dramatic all-time high. It could be 80K or something, or 85K. But I think if we see Bitcoin break into a new all-time high, like let's say before, sometime between September and December, it's very highly likely that dominance will break down around that time in a substantial way, paving the way for altcoins to really run. So let's talk about altcoins next. So this is others dominance, which is basically the dominance of the top altcoins minus the top 10 altcoins. Just kind of zooming out on this a little bit, and you can see that on the 2-week we don't get a lot of bullish and bearish crosses that are super close to each other, although it does happen sometimes, like it happened here in 2020. What are we seeing now with others dominance, and where is it likely to be going? So we had a bearish cross on others dominance in June of 2022, and for basically it took all the way till November of 2023, so a year and a half, for us to print a bullish cross. We got a nice mini bull run by altcoins. A lot of newer altcoins were running, some older altcoins were waking up a little bit. Solana went on a run, and we've just barely printed a bearish cross right now in June. So I don't know. I think it's possible that we might see something like this develop. So you see how we had a bearish cross in December of 2020 and then a bullish cross in February of 2021. I've shown this in previous videos, but I think this flush out is not going to have like a lot of legs to it. So I think we could see altcoins continue to be weak for another few months. This is why I'm eyeing Q4 to potentially be a turning point for altcoins and for a brand new altcoin season to commence, which includes a nice bullish cross. Now, if it doesn't happen in Q4 of 2024, I would expect that it would happen by early 2025. I still think the end of this year and the beginning of next year are going to be very kind to altcoins. So I'm kind of looking at this and seeing, okay, there's been a bearish cross. We're likely to probably see some further downside, and it's probably going to have legs into it. You know, like last time, again, it went from December 2020. You know, we started to fall below the band in October of 2020, and in December 2020 we printed a low that lined up with the cross. We did have some mean reversion in January of 2021, and little did we know, well, that was actually the beginning of altcoin season, right? And it really became obvious once we put in that bullish cross. So yeah, something like that could play out, but it could play out in a slower way. If we go back to the 2016-2017 cycle, you'll actually see an example where it took a little bit longer to get things going. So, or I wanted to show you the drop that happened in 2017 and how we recovered there. Okay, so in this cycle, you actually have to go back to 2015. You can see October 2015, we printed a bearish cross coming out of a bear market, and we printed a bullish cross. Let's see, this was October, so about half a year later, and then we had this massive run up by altcoins, but then look what happened, just straight down, and we nearly printed a bearish cross. And it was December 16 that we finally hit that bottom, but it was just straight down for months before we got a massive run by altcoins and, you know, a final bearish cross in September of 2018. And you had a lot of choppiness here heading into or all throughout 2020 and 2021. So I don't think we're going to see like a massive lag until the next altcoin season. For all we know, we could begin it in July. I mean, we could begin it in August. It's just a little weird to have an altcoin season if Bitcoin is not showing strength. Okay, we generally don't expect altcoin season to happen unless Bitcoin is showing strength. So I would keep an eye on this. Things are not necessarily going to play out exactly the way they have before. What I am enjoying, though, is I'm seeing that this downwick here has been bought up pretty nicely. What I'd like to do right now is turn on the Heikin-Ashi candles for this chart to show kind of what price momentum is doing, although you're not really looking at price, but more like dominance momentum for others' dominance. What I love about Heikin-Ashi candles is they really tune out the noise. And we can even go to the monthly for this, but altcoins have been just bleeding, right? So this is just nothing but red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just flat out reds, no real overshadows, all undershadows here. So yeah, this is a bearish trend until proven otherwise. And we've seen these in the past. I mean, look at in 2020, we've seen this, and then we finally got a red with an overshadow. So that's kind of what I would be looking for, some overshadows to appear on the Heikin-Ashis. If we go to the monthly, we can see that we have had 3 red months in a row for altcoins. And we know that in past cycles, like this one here, 2020, we had 1, 2, looks like 3 red months. If we go back to, let's see, the 2017, 2016. So here's that 2015, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red months. This had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red months. So if we were to have like 5 red months with altcoins, then that means that we should anticipate a green month for altcoins no later than September. Okay, so this is bear market right here, so I'm not going to look at that. I'm looking at what's happened during bull markets. It was between 3 to 5 months before we saw an altcoin season. So we could see an altcoin season as soon as July. We could see it to start to materialize, or as late as September. September makes a lot of sense to me if we get rate cuts priced in sometime in August, right? So when it's like, okay, the Fed, they're definitely going to cut rates. The market will price those in ahead of time, and we could see this chart start to flip green in a more material way. If we flip on the Gaussian channel, let me just do that real quick. You know, we can see where we're at right now. is with the Heiken Ashis, we're testing the median line of the Gaussian channel. So we're not really holding it too well here, to be quite honest. And this is actually the first time we've ever gotten in this far. But it does look to me like we are very likely to reverse course sometime within the next few months. So I would say by September, I think that altcoins could reverse course. Could happen as soon as July. So you need to be prepared. You need to have your positions ready just in case. And we'll probably see an indecisive candle on the charts before we start to see the greens with the overshadows, okay, which are really, really bullish. So this is really pointing to this being like a really amazing altcoin accumulation opportunity. Now you could say there's a head and shoulders here. Here's the head, shoulder, and you wouldn't necessarily be wrong. So maybe there is a little bit of further downside to go before we see a bounce. So yeah, I think just based on past expectations, 3 to 5 red months makes a lot of sense. We're already three months into it. The June monthly close is coming tomorrow, so we'll see what July starts to look like. Here we're looking at total 3 minus USDT divided by Bitcoin. So this is the strength of the entire altcoin market, which does include the top 10 relative to Bitcoin. And these are Heiken Ashi candles with the Gaussian channel. Note that we are coming up on the bottom of the Gaussian channel, this green monthly Gaussian. So it always pays to look at different time frames because you can see things that might not be so visible on other time frames. And we have that 1, 2, 3 red months in a row, right? 3 red months in a row, following a green indecisive, a little bit of green here, but it's mostly just been chop. This totally looks like consolidation. It looks like this right here. So could we potentially have another red month? Yeah, sure. Could we have a few? Yeah, we could have an indecisive, but this looks like it's getting ready to launch off to outer space. To be completely honest, this looks extremely strong. And I think there's a chance that we do break this trend line. We don't have to break this trend line, but we could break this trend line. We could break it slightly. So the question is, are altcoins oscillating against Bitcoin, or are they really starting to gain some strength and they're about to break out? Because I've drawn this. This looks like a descending triangle formation potentially. Will we break out this cycle? Who knows? Maybe we will, maybe we won't. What does this look like on the 2-week? And let's take away the Heiken Ashis. So here's your 2-week. Well, even with the Heiken Ashis, you can see there's the red. But we have to look at this from different perspectives. So let's turn on regular candles. And you can see that this long-term trend line has been holding on the 2-week. It has just been holding. Even when it went below, things got bought up. Indecisive candle right here. Almost looks like a bullish hammer candle, like almost. Kind of, yeah, you would need a little bit more green up here for that to happen. But, yeah, no, I mean, it looks good. So I think that we're still in altcoin accumulation. I feel like this is the accumulation zone, or what you would know as the accumulation of a lifetime. Could we go below this zone and head into here for a little bit? I think it's possible. I think we could spend a couple months there, but I don't really foresee something quite this dramatic. I don't. I think the equivalent of what you're seeing here is right here already. This is altcoin accumulation season. This is a time to be picking up your positions in preparation for the final major leg of mania season, which could last for upwards of a year or so. The last thing I wanted to look at was Ethereum versus Bitcoin, because it's going to be another indicator that altcoin season is happening. And what we've seen here is that back in March of this year, so about 3 months ago, we finally broke below this long-term trend line that dates all the way back to 2019. So a 5-year long-term trend line finally broke through to the bottom. And it looks like we kind of bottomed out around 0.045. And we had this gigantic green candle. I know it doesn't look green on here, but that's just because the Gaussian channel is turned on. This gigantic green candle followed by 2 more kind of indecisive candles that are butting up against this long-term trend line. So the question is, was this like a long, giant fake out below the trend line and we're about to go back above it? Or is Bitcoin about to see further downside? And this is kind of a hard question to answer just based off a 2-week chart alone. We need to look kind of more under the hood to figure that out. We know that ETH has some big news coming up in just a few days regarding the ETH ETF, and that could certainly send price soaring. This does look like a bullish formation at the moment. But technically, we haven't put in a higher high yet. So I can't flip bullish on ETH Bitcoin until we do that. This is on the 2 week, of course, and you could even look on the 1 week. We still have not printed a higher high to take out this fake out. In the past, we've seen more red on the Gaussian channel. We've seen double bottoms, right? This happened right here in, was it like September 2019 and then January 2020, and then even another test in December 2020. Of course, that was all on this long-term trend line. So the question is, are we going to drop lower to my red zone target, which is not pictured here, was between 0.04 and 0.03 and 0.04. That's kind of where I was anticipating we might see ETH Bitcoin drop. I'm not ruling that out just yet, especially if this is a sell the news event and ETH Bitcoin wants to head back down for a little bit longer. The Gunnar EMA last had a bearish cross in February of 2023, and it has been in a bearish cross ever since, and you can see it's still hitting resistance at that red band. Before that, we had a brief bullish cross in June of 2022, and before that, we had a pretty sustained bullish run starting in July of 2020. So actually, this was a bearish cross, so brief. It was a very brief bearish cross. So ETH Bitcoin hasn't spent a lot of time in the bearish zone, looking like that really started around March of 2023. So it's been about a year and 3 months. We may still have some time left. This might have to go down a little bit further to the 0.03 to 0.04 red zone. I've suspected that this trend line that was once support is now going to act as resistance. That's been my suspicion. That theory would be invalidated, of course, if we see sustained movement above this trend line, right? Something like that. But what I'm kind of thinking is a likely outcome is maybe we see a fake out above the trend line only to come back down, into August and finally bottom here, put in that lower low before we head into a more sustained altcoin season. So again, I'm kind of putting altcoin season out in the fourth quarter of this year, for when we really start to see a lot of the major moves. And you can see on the altcoin season index chart, we're at 24. So we're very much knee deep in Bitcoin season. We're still in Bitcoin season, spending some time down here. We've had periods where we've spent time down here before, 2023, April, May, June, July, 4 months there. 2022, it's more bear market, not really that interested. In 2021, we spent some time in Bitcoin season. You can see in 2020, this is probably more similar to where we're at now. November, December, and January, we were down in Bitcoin season before finally popping off into altcoin season. So that was like 3 months. So right now, we've only been in Bitcoin season for about a month. I anticipate that this could continue longer. We could pop up above here and come back down and kind of straddle this line. And maybe we get one last big drop before we head back up again and start our first true altcoin season. This was barely an altcoin season over here. So I think it's coming. I think it's coming pretty soon. If you just got a little bit of patience, accumulate those altcoins while we're in Bitcoin season, and you can accumulate them using Bitcoin or cash, but I think it's coming really soon. So I think the name of the game is patience. Patience, DCA, accumulate, hold. Not really the time to sell. Of course, nothing I'm telling you should be taken as financial advice because I'm not a financial advisor. I am the Gaussian Snake. I'm a crypto analyst for Crypto Simulation Theory, my YouTube channel. I also have a Telegram called The Snake Pit. I would encourage you to sign up for that for daily market updates, chart analysis, and much, much more. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this video and channel, and hit that notification bell to be notified of future releases. Wishing you the best in the market. Enjoy the summer. It's hot outside. Touch some grass. Enjoy yourself, but don't tune out of the market. You don't want to miss what's coming.